I was born again on my wedding night. Chloe was standing there, fresh from the shower, a plush hotel towel wrapped around her body. Her lips were parted, ready to speak the one sentence that had haunted me for an entire lifetime. In my last life, this was the moment she looked at me, her eyes brimming with a practiced vulnerability, and told me she wasn't ready, that she wanted us to sleep in separate rooms. I believed her. Like an idiot, I sat alone in our bridal suite until dawn. Meanwhile, she took the red-eye to London to see her one that got away. I'd driven to the airport like a madman. My assistant called, her voice trembling. "Mr. Cole, the man Mrs. Cole is meeting. He isn't her ex. He's a college kid, a barista." The next thing I saw was the blinding glare of headlights. Now, watching that same mouth about to form the same lie, I smiled. "Chloe," I cut her off, tossing a manila folder onto the vanity. "Let's get a divorce." The fragile look on her face shattered. I gestured to the door. "Go find your student. Stop the theatrics." Chapter 1, all the color drained from Chloe Vance's face. Her fingers, clutching the edge of her towel, tightened until her knuckles were white. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. "Ethan, are you insane? It's our wedding night." Her voice climbed, laced with a sharp, wavering panic. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Insane? Yeah, in my previous life, I was absolutely insane. For her, I'd shut down every advance from other women, handing her my entire heart on a silver platter. To impress her family, I worked myself to the bone, taking my company public just so she could live the life of a trophy wife, the envy of everyone in her circle. And what did I get for it? A wedding night spent alone. The betrayal of her flying to another man. The ultimate humiliation of her using my money to support her boy toy. And finally, a fiery death in a car wreck on a rain-slicked highway. I'm not insane. I've never been clearer, I said, each word deliberate like a shard of ice. "Chloe, I'm giving you an easy way out. Don't make me get ugly." "WH, what are you talking about?" Her eyes instantly reddened, and huge, perfect tears began to roll down her cheeks like beads from a broken necklace. "What did I do wrong? Why are you treating me like this? Just because I don't want to rush things." She choked on a sob, a perfect picture of a deeply wronged bride. Her performance was impeccable. The Academy owed her an Oscar. Last time, I fell for this act completely. "Cut the crap," I said, stepping toward her, looming over her. "You don't want to rush things? Who are you saving yourself for? That kid who makes lattes at the Brooklyn coffee shop." Boom. It was as if a bomb went off inside her head. She stumbled back, hitting the edge of the vanity. She stared at me, pure terror in her eyes, as if I were some kind of monster. "You, how did you know?" "I know a lot more than you think." I picked up the divorce papers and a pen, pressing them into her cold hand. "Sign it. The penthouse, the cars, the bank accounts. You don't get a dime. Everything I gave you, I'm taking it all back." "No." "Impossible," she shrieked, throwing the papers on the floor. "Ethan, you can't do this to me. I love you." "Love me?" That was the joke of the century. I was done talking. I pulled out my iPhone and played video. On the screen, Chloe was kissing a young man in the dimly lit corner of a bar. The guy's hand was exploring places it shouldn't, sliding under the hem of her shirt. The date stamp was from the night before our wedding. Watching the video, Chloe's strength seemed to evaporate. She collapsed onto the floor in a heap. "Sign it," I said, my voice dangerously low, "or I send this video to your parents. I'll post it in the family group chat. I'll forward it to every one of your socialite friends." I crouched down, picked up the papers, and tapped her cheek with them. "Your choice." Chapter 2. Chloe was trembling, not from the cold, but from sheer terror. She bit her lip so hard it could have bled, her tears now a cocktail of humiliation and venom. "Ethan, you had me followed? What? You expected me to wait for you to cheat, and then thank you for the privilege." I laid the divorce papers out in front of her again, my voice devoid of any warmth. "You have 3 minutes. You know what happens if you don't sign." In my last life, I had trusted her completely. I trusted her when she said she wasn't ready. I trusted her when she said, "We need time to adjust." I even trusted her when she claimed she was flying to London to say a final goodbye to an old flame. It wasn't until my assistant's frantic phone call that I realized how stupid I had been. There was no old flame. It was all a lie she'd spun to cover her tracks while she met up with her lover. The so-called student was just after her money, and she was basking in the ego boost of being pursued by a younger man. He wanted money. She wanted sex. And I was their personal ATM and the fool who made it all possible. How pathetic. Chloe's eyes darted back and forth, her expression shifting from shock to fear, and then to a flicker of calculation. Ethan, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. She suddenly lunged forward, trying to hug my legs, playing her last emotional card. It was a moment of weakness. That guy was obsessed with me. I don't even like him. You're the one I love. Please, just forgive me this one time. We just got married. I kicked her away before she could touch me. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. The disgust in my voice was palpable. You love me? You love my money. You love the status that being Mrs. Cole gives you. Chloe, save the pathetic act. It doesn't work on me anymore. Her crying stopped short, replaced by a flash of anger and embarrassment. Ethan, do you have to be so cruel? After everything we've been through, can't you show a little decency? Decency? I scoffed. Where was your decency when you were screwing some kid behind my back? Where was it when you were wiring in my money? I advanced on her, and with every word, her face grew paler. Did you think I wouldn't find out? The apartment you rented for him in the village, 20 grand a month. The watch you bought him, over 100,000. You were even about to embezzle company funds to help him open his own coffee shop, weren't you? These were all the details my assistant had uncovered before my death. Each fact was a knife twisting in my heart. Chloe was completely stunned. She never imagined I knew everything, down to the last detail. Faced with cold, hard evidence, her entire charade crumbled into a pathetic joke. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Sign, I said, holding out the pen again. Or it won't just be the video. I'll make sure you and your little boyfriend are completely and utterly ruined. That was it. Her last line of defense broke. With a trembling hand, she took the pen and scrawled her name on the bottom line of the divorce agreement. After the last letter, it was as if all her bones had dissolved. She went limp, slumping to the floor. I took the agreement, didn't give her a second glance, and turned to leave. At the door, I paused without looking back. Be out of my penthouse by tomorrow. I'll have the housekeeper pack your things and leave them by the service entrance. Then I shut the door, leaving her cries of despair behind me. On my wedding night, I ended my own sham of a marriage. Chapter 3, I walked out of the bedroom and immediately dialed my father-in-law, Robert Vance. In my last life, that man had been a constant source of grief. He acted as if being Chloe's father gave him a right to treat me like his personal subordinate. He would show up at board meetings and try to throw his weight around, as if he owned the company. After Chloe's affair became public, he didn't blame his daughter. He called to yell at me, saying I wasn't a real man, that I didn't know how to forgive, and that I had embarrassed his family. This time, I wasn't putting up with any of it. He picked up on the second ring, his booming voice full of self-importance. Ethan, calling right after the wedding. Huh? Does this mean you've finally come to your senses and you're ready to make Chloe's brother a vice president? I smirked. What a wonderful father-in-law. On his daughter's wedding night, he doesn't ask how we are. He just wants a cushy job for his deadbeat son. Robert, I said, my tone deliberately formal. I'm calling to inform you of something. What is it? That VP position can't wait, you know. Chloe and I are getting a divorce. The line went dead silent. After a good 10 seconds, Robert's furious roar exploded from the phone. What the hell did you just say? A divorce. Ethan, you son of a bitch, you think you can just dump my daughter? Watch your tone, Robert. My voice turned to ice. Your daughter cheated on me. The divorce papers are already signed. You can pick her up tomorrow. Bullshit. My daughter is a sweet, virtuous woman. She would never cheat. It was you, wasn't it? You ungrateful bastard. You found some other tramp, and now you're trying to get rid of Chloe. He launched into a tirade, not caring about the facts. I didn't bother arguing. I just pulled up the video on my phone and sent it to him. See for yourself. And by the way, tell your son the job offer is off the table. As for that Hudson Yards South Tower project your firm is bidding on, I wouldn't get your hopes up. Before he could respond, I hung up and blocked his number. Dealing with people like him, every extra word is a waste of breath. After all that, I felt the suffocating weight that I'd carried for a lifetime finally begin to lift. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room and looked out at the glittering New York skyline. Everything was starting over. This time, I wouldn't bend for anyone. And anyone who owed me, I would make them pay me back 1,000 times over. The next morning, I was back at the office. My assistant, Jenna, saw me and quickly looked away, hesitating. "Good morning, Mr. Cole." "Morning." I nodded, walking straight to my office. In my past life, Jenna had been my loyal and capable assistant. She was the one who bravely made that final call to me. This time, I would make sure she was rewarded for her loyalty. "Jenna, bring me the proposal for the Queen's waterfront plot," I said. She blinked in confusion. "Mr. Cole, I thought we decided to pass on that one to focus all our resources on the Hudson Yard project." Mr. Vance was very insistent. The Mr. Vance she was referring to was Robert. The Hudson Yards project was the very one Robert had pushed me to win at all costs. In my last life, I listened to him. I poured most of the company's capital and manpower into that bid, only to fall into a massive contract trap. My capital chain snapped, and the company went bankrupt overnight. The real prize, it turned out, was the Queen's waterfront plot that everyone had dismissed. That plot was later bought for a bargain by my rival, Marcus Thorne. Within 6 months, the city announced its new master plan. A new central business district would be built right there. The land value skyrocketed 50-fold. Marcus Thorne became one of the richest men in the city on the back of that deal. "Scrap the Hudson Yards project," I said, my tone leaving no room for argument. "From now on, every resource this company has will be directed toward acquiring the Queen's plot. Also, I need a complete dossier on Marcus Thorne's company, financials, project vulnerabilities, everything." "What?" Jenna was completely lost. "Mr. Cole, that's incredibly risky. The Queen's plot is—" "Just do it," I cut her off. "If anything goes wrong, it's on me." Seeing the conviction in my eyes, Jenna, though still bewildered, nodded. "Yes, Mr. Cole." After she left, I leaned back in my executive chair and closed my eyes. My revenge wasn't just for Chloe and her family. Everyone who had betrayed me, everyone who had kicked me when I was down, I wouldn't let a single one of them off the hook. Marcus Thorne was first on the list. I was going to give him a taste of what it felt like to fall from the top of the world into the mud. By the afternoon, Jenna had the dossier on my desk. She was efficient. I pored over the files on Thorne's company, cross-referencing them with my memories. It was just as I remembered. His biggest cash flow problem was tied up in the Hudson Yards project. He was desperate to win that bid to save his company. Perfect. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. "Hey, is this Sarah from the Journal? I have a major story for you. It's about creative accounting and potential securities fraud at Thorne Industries." "Interested." An hour later, articles began to spread like wildfire online. Bombshell report. Thorne Industries under investigation for massive financial fraud. Marcus Thorne's House of Cards. The illegal funding scheme behind the Hudson Yards bid. Thorne Industries' stock price immediately went into a nosedive. Meanwhile, I had my finance department start quietly buying up his shares at rock-bottom prices. In this game, I was going to make sure he lost everything, right down to his cufflinks. Chapter 5. Chloe called that afternoon from an unknown number. The second I answered, her tearful, furious voice shot through the phone. "Ethan, why did you cancel my credit cards? What is wrong with you?" "We're divorced, Ms. Vance," I said, leaning back in my chair and casually spinning a pen. "I'm no longer obligated to finance your lifestyle." But I don't have any money. I have nothing," she screamed, on the verge of a full-blown meltdown. "That sounds like a you problem." "Ethan, you bastard. You can't do this to me." I hung up. A few minutes later, the front desk buzzed my office. A woman named Vance was causing a scene in the lobby, demanding to see me. I rubbed my temples. "Have security escort her out. If she resists, call the police and have her booked for trespassing." "Yes, Mr. Cole." I walked over to the blinds and peered down from my office. Soon enough, I saw Chloe being dragged out of the gleaming marble lobby by 2 large security guards, one on each arm. Her hair was a mess. Her makeup was smeared with tears, and she was still screaming obscenities, causing passers-by to stop and stare. This pathetic creature was a far cry from the poised, elegant, and untouchable Mrs. Cole I remembered. In my last life, she'd done the same thing. After my company went bankrupt, she stormed into my office, not to comfort me, but to scream at me for being a failure who had embarrassed her. Then she cleaned out my last remaining savings account and vanished. Tables, meat turn. Now, it was her turn to get a taste of it. I dropped the blinds and walked away, a cold indifference settling over me. She wasn't worth another ounce of my emotional energy. With Chloe handled, I felt a sense of clarity and focused completely on Marcus Thorne. Over the next few days, battered by the media and mounting evidence, Thorne was in full crisis mode. His stock hit limit down day after day. To stabilize the situation, he started desperately selling off other assets to pour money into the Hudson Yards project, which was exactly what I wanted. I let him sell. Once he had liquidated everything he could, with nothing left but that worthless Queen's plot he couldn't even give away, it would be time to close the net. That evening, as I was getting ready to leave, an unexpected visitor showed up. It was Chloe's student lover, Leo Martinez. He was being held at the front desk, arrogantly demanding to see me by name. I told Jenna to let him up. The second he walked into my office, he scanned the room with an unabashed look of greed and envy. "So you're Ethan Cole?" he asked, hands stuffed in his pockets, affecting a tough guy slouch. I didn't say anything. I just watched him. "I'm warning you, stay away from Chloe." He strode up to my desk and slammed his palm down on the polished wood. "Chloe's my woman. She loves me. A rich old fossil like you who just throws money around doesn't deserve her." His words were pure provocation, an obvious attempt to assert his dominance. I suddenly laughed. What a naive little fool. "Are you finished?" I asked. "What are you laughing at?" My reaction clearly infuriated him. "I'm laughing at you, a dead man walking who doesn't even know it." I took out my phone and hit the record button. Then, I leaned forward, speaking in a voice low enough for only the two of us to hear. "You think Chloe loves you? She's about to have nothing. No money, no status, no future. Are you still going to love her then?" Leo's expression changed instantly. Chapter 6. What are you talking about? The swagger vanished from Leo's face. "Exactly what it sounds like," I said, studying him with amusement. "Chloe signed a prenup. She gets nothing. The penthouse, the sports cars, the designer clothes. All bought by me. And now I've taken them all back." I paused, enjoying the kaleidoscope of emotions warring on his face. "In other words, she's broke." Leo's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The greed in his eyes was rapidly replaced by panic and calculation. "No way. Chloe, she—" "You don't believe me?" I smiled, pushing a copy of the asset transfer document across the desk. "See for yourself whose name is on everything now." Leo picked up the document with a trembling hand. The more he read, the paler he became. "She told me. She said when you divorced, she'd get half of everything." "She lied," I said, leaning back in my chair with a dismissive shrug. "Or maybe she was just that naive. You cheat on your husband and expect a payout. Does this look like a TV movie to you?" I looked at him like he was a bug under a microscope. "The lease on the apartment she got for you is up next month. All those expensive gifts she bought you. I can sue to have them returned at any time. You should really think hard about what you stand to gain by sticking with a woman who has nothing." With that, I stopped the recording on my phone and saved the file. Leo was in a full-blown panic. He had come here to gloat, to humiliate me, and maybe even to extort some money. He never imagined his golden goose was already cooked. He looked at me, his eyes darting around, beads of sweat popping up on his forehead. "Mr. Cole, sir, this had nothing to do with me. It was all Chloe. She seduced me. She said she was unhappy that you were cold to her. I felt sorry for her, that's all." He started backpedaling furiously, pinning all the blame on Chloe. It was a truly pathetic sight. "Oh, really?" I feigned surprise. "Yes, absolutely. Mr. Cole, I've been trying to break it off with her for weeks, but she just keeps clinging to me. I have nothing but respect for you, sir. You're a visionary, a man of action. Chloe never deserved you." I nodded, pretending to accept his story. "Is that so? In that case, would you be willing to do me a small favor?" Leo's eyes lit up, thinking he'd found a new patron. He practically bowed. "Anything, sir. Just say the word. It's simple." I forwarded him the audio file I'd just recorded. "Take this. Go to Chloe. Tell her you want to break up for good. If she gives you any trouble, play this for her." I looked at his greedy, cowardly face and added the finishing touch. "Once it's done, you can keep that watch she bought you. Consider it a severance package from me." Leo's eyes practically glowed. "Thank you, Mr. Cole." Thank you. I'll take care of it right away. He clutched his phone and backed out of my office, bowing and scraping the whole way. Watching him go, the cold smile on my face deepened. Chloe, so this is your true love. I hope you enjoy the taste of being betrayed by the one person you trusted most. Chapter 7. After dealing with the minor annoyance of Leo, my life became blessedly quiet, free from the drama of Chloe and her family. I poured all my energy into my work. Thanks to my calculated maneuvers, Marcus Thorne's company stock was in the gutter. I had my team acquire over 30% of the outstanding shares at a ridiculously low price, making me the second largest shareholder after Thorne himself. Meanwhile, the bidding for the Queen's waterfront plot entered its final phase. Since everyone's attention had been on the Hudson Yards project, there was very little competition for this worthless piece of land. I secured a spot in the final auction with almost no effort. Everything was leading up to the land auction in 3 days. That would be the day I utterly destroyed Marcus Thorne and laid the first cornerstone of my future empire. The day before the auction, a business partner, Mr. Davison, called to request a last-minute change to a contract. He suggested we meet that evening at an exclusive downtown club. I finished up at the office and drove over. When I pushed open the door to the private room, I froze. It wasn't just Mr. Davison. There was a woman sitting beside him. She wore a sharp, tailored white pantsuit, her dark hair styled in soft waves. Her makeup was flawless. Seeing me, she stood and extended a hand, her smile both polite and distant. Mr. Cole, a pleasure. I'm Ava Sterling. Ava Sterling. The name sent a jolt through my chest. In my last life, after I went bankrupt, Marcus Thorne not only took my company, but tried to wipe me off the map completely. At my lowest point, it was Ava Sterling and her firm, Celestial Capital, who had offered me a lifeline. She recognized my talent and gave me the investment capital I needed to start over. Unfortunately, before I could ever repay her faith in me, I died on my way to the airport. I never thought I would meet her so soon in this life. Ms. Sterling, the pleasure's all mine. I quickly composed myself and shook her hand. Her grip was firm, her hand cool to the touch. It was over in a second. I've heard a lot about you from Mr. Davison, Mr. Cole. He said you were a force to be reckoned with. I see he wasn't exaggerating. Ava said, her eyes studying me with a sharp intelligence. You're too kind, Miss Sterling, I replied calmly. The negotiation was seamless. Ava was a consummate professional. Her logic was airtight, her market analysis precise. We quickly reached an agreement on the contract details. Pleased with the outcome, Mr. Davison suggested a celebratory drink. Over dinner, Ava seemed particularly interested in me, casually asking about my personal life. I heard you were recently divorced, Mr. Cole. My hand, holding a glass of scotch, paused for a fraction of a second. I am. Forgive my forwardness, but would you mind my asking why? She asked, her gaze direct. There was no gossip in her eyes, only genuine curiosity. It was a very personal question, but for some reason, coming from her, it didn't bother me. I was silent for a moment before answering quietly, she betrayed me. A flicker of understanding crossed Ava's face, followed by something else. A glint of what looked like admiration. Then she has terrible judgment. She raised her glass in a small toast. To your newfound freedom. I looked into her smiling eyes and raised my own glass. The two glasses clinked together, the sound crisp and clear in the quiet room. In that moment, I felt the ice that had encased my heart for so long begin to crack. I saw Marcus Thorne at the auction. He looked far worse than he had a few days ago. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his hair was disheveled, and he looked like a man on the brink. His eyes found me across the room. First confusion, then a raw, visceral hatred. Ethan Cole, this was you. He lunged at me, trying to grab my collar, but my security guard intercepted him effortlessly. Careful, Marcus. Accusations like that could be considered slander, I said, smoothing my tie and offering him a placid smile. Your company's creative accounting has nothing to do with me. You. Thorne was shaking with rage. Don't get cocky. Once I win the Hudson Yards bid, you're the first person I'm going to crush. Is that so? My smile widened. Well, best of luck. With that, I turned my back on him and walked into the auction hall. The auction began with a few smaller parcels of land, the atmosphere subdued. Then came the main event, the Hudson Yards South Tower plot. The bidding started at $500 million. Thorne, clinging to this as his last hope, immediately raised his paddle. $510 million. Another bidder jumped in. $520. The price climbed steadily. Thorne was a man possessed. No matter the bid, he countered immediately, his desperation palpable. I sat back and watched the show. I knew he was gambling with every last drop of his company's liquid assets, probably even dipping into illegal project funds. Finally, the price soared to $800 million, far exceeding the plot's actual value. It was down to Thorne and an out-of-state developer. $810 million. Thorne roared, the veins in his forehead bulging. The developer simply smiled and lowered his paddle. Congratulations, Mr. Thorne. Bang! The auctioneer's gavel fell. Sold. For $810 million. Thorne collapsed into his chair as if his strings had been cut, a look of manic relief on his face. He shot a triumphant, defiant glare in my direction. I raised my glass to him in a mock toast, saying nothing. You fool. You think you've won? You've just walked into the grave I dug for you. Next up was the Queens waterfront plot. The bidding started at $50 million. As expected, due to its remote location, interest was minimal. Only a couple of token bids were placed. I waited until the price crawled up to $60 million, then casually raised my paddle. $100 million. I had nearly doubled the price in a single bid. The room erupted in murmurs. Everyone stared at me as if I'd lost my mind. Thorne actually laughed out loud. Cole, have you gone completely insane? $100 million for that toxic wasteland? Your company must be next on the chopping block. I ignored him. My bid had successfully scared off the remaining competition. Bang! The gavel fell again. Sold. For $100 million. The Queen's plot was mine. As soon as the auction ended, my phone rang. I answered it. A gleeful, venomous voice was on the other end. Ethan, it's your ex-wife, Chloe. Her voice was dripping with schadenfreude. I heard you spent $100 million on a worthless piece of land. That is hilarious. You finally got what you deserve. This is karma for what you did to me. Before I could reply, the massive screen outside the auction house entrance suddenly switched to a breaking news alert. We have a major announcement from the mayor's office. The city has just released its new urban development plan, which includes the construction of a new central business district and a new subway line extension. In Queens, along the waterfront. Chloe's laughter died in her throat. The other end of the line went completely silent. Did you hear that? I asked into the phone, my voice calm. All I could hear was Chloe's ragged, heavy breathing. She was clearly stunned speechless by the shocking turn of events. That worthless piece of land is now valued at a minimum of $5 billion. Meanwhile, the Hudson Yards plot Marcus Thorne just bought for $810 million. The whole project has been frozen by the city, pending a fraud investigation. With every word I spoke, I could picture the blood draining from Chloe's face. So, Chloe, it seems your karma was a little off the mark. I let out a soft chuckle. On the other hand, you, with no money and a history of being duped by a broke barista, you must be having a rough time. You're a monster, Ethan. She finally found her voice, a shriek of pure, impotent rage. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Seeing me miserable. I am, I admitted freely, immensely. Watching the people who betrayed me get everything they deserve. It's better than therapy. You'll burn in hell for this. Save a spot for yourself. I hung up and blocked her new number, too. Behind me, there was a loud thud. I turned to see Marcus Thorne on the ground, convulsing, foam bubbling at his lips. Paramedics rushed toward him as chaos erupted. I knew he was finished. It wasn't just bankruptcy. The charges for embezzlement and securities fraud would be enough to keep him behind bars for the rest of his life. And I had built my new peak on the rubble of his downfall. As soon as the news about the Queen's plot broke, my company's stock went parabolic. Investment firms were practically beating down my door, desperate for a piece of the action. My name, Ethan Cole, became the talk of the city's financial world overnight. That's when Ava Sterling called. Mr. Cole, congratulations. Her voice was warm with amusement. A checkmate in one move. Brilliantly played. Your intelligence network is as impressive as ever, Miss Sterling. I'd just like to keep an eye on people who know how to make things happen, she said, her tone shifting slightly. Are you free tonight? I'd like to buy you a celebratory dinner. Of course, I accepted without hesitation. But it's my treat. A thank you for our last meeting. All right, it's a date. After we hung up, I found myself smiling. It was refreshing to deal with someone so intelligent, especially when that someone was also a beautiful woman. I chose a private table at a restaurant with a stunning view of the East River. Ava arrived just as I was looking out at the skyline. She was wearing a simple, elegant black dress that highlighted her fair skin, with a single strand of pearls around her neck. She was the epitome of class and sensuality. What are you looking at? She asked, taking the seat across from me. My new empire, I said, gesturing toward the glittering lights of Queens across the water. Ava followed my gaze and smiled. You're not short on ambition. A man's got to have some. Dinner was served, and we talked as we ate. From business models to 5-year plans, our conversation flowed effortlessly. I quickly realized Ava wasn't just a brilliant investor. Her vision and understanding of the global market surpassed that of many seasoned CEOs. Talking with her was exhilarating. Honestly, I'm curious, Ava said, swirling the red wine in her glass, her eyes catching the light. How did you know about the Queen's development plan? My sources say that information was kept under lock and key until this afternoon. It was the question on everyone's mind, but I couldn't exactly tell her I was living my life for the second time. I smiled, offering a half-truth, a gut feeling. Ava clearly didn't buy it, but she didn't press the issue, simply raising an eyebrow. It seems you're a man of many secrets, Mr. Cole. She set down her glass and leaned forward slightly, her bright eyes locking with mine. But I have to admit, I find your secrets very interesting. Her voice was low, laced with a subtle, playful invitation. I could almost feel her warm breath on my skin. The atmosphere in the room shifted, crackling with a sudden, palpable energy. My heart, which I thought had turned to stone, began to beat faster. It had been a long, long time since any woman had made me feel this way. Miss Sterling, I said, my throat suddenly dry. A man could get the wrong idea. What idea is that? She asked, a sly curve to her lips. That I'm trying to seduce you? She laid it right out there, direct and unapologetic. I was momentarily speechless. Ava laughed a low, melodic sound. She reached across the table, her fingertips lightly grazing the back of my hand. Ethan, I'm not your ex-wife. I don't believe in tears and drama. I believe in strength. You're strong. You're the kind of man I admire. Her touch was bold, her words even bolder. So yes, I am pursuing you. The question is, will you let me catch you? A cool breeze drifted in from the river, but I felt a fire ignite where her skin met mine, spreading through my entire body. I looked into her open, passionate eyes, and all the shadows of my past and present lives seemed to vanish. I turned my hand over and captured hers. The honor would be all mine. Chapter 11. After Ava and I made it official, our relationship intensified quickly. She was an extraordinary woman. At work, she was the queen of capital, a decisive and formidable force in the investment world. But with me, she revealed a softer, more intimate side. She remembered my favorite brand of coffee. She'd show up at the office with takeout when I was working late. When I was exhausted, she wouldn't say a word, just wrap her arms around me in a quiet, comforting embrace. Most importantly, she understood me. She understood the scars I carried, and she understood my burning need for retribution. She never told me to be the bigger person. Instead, she'd hand me a sharper knife. Do whatever you need to do, she once whispered, curled up against me. If the sky falls, I'll be right here to help you hold it up. To have a woman like that by my side, it was everything. With Ava's support and strategic genius, my business empire expanded at an exponential rate. We co-founded a new investment firm, combining my foreknowledge with her mastery of capital markets to create tidal waves in the industry. Wealth and power snowballed. I became the city's most celebrated business prodigy. Everyone wanted a piece of me. Every media outlet wanted an interview. And right at the peak of my success, I got an unexpected call. It was my former father-in-law, Robert Vance. His voice had lost all its former arrogance, now dripping with a pathetic fawning tone. Ethan. Mr. Cole, it's Robert Vance. You. You remember me, right? What do you want? I asked, my voice flat. Well, Mr. Cole, you see, we were family once, and my company has run into a bit of trouble. A cash flow issue. I was wondering if you could help me out. I laughed. Funny how he didn't remember we were family when he was calling me an ungrateful bastard. Robert, I seem to recall your company was bidding on the Hudson Yards project. How'd that turn out? I asked, twisting the knife. There was a choke sound on the other end of the line. Well, Marcus Thorne snatched that one up, and now he's in prison and the project is dead, and all my initial investment is gone. His voice broke. Mr. Cole, please, you're a magnanimous man. For Chloe's sake, just give me a lifeline. I'll do anything. I'll be your dog. For Chloe's sake? I scoffed at the absurdity. Robert, have you forgotten? Your daughter cheated on me. We're divorced. And I also remember you screaming at me over the phone, telling me to get lost. Your tone was quite different then. I paused, then delivered the final blow. You know the saying? You didn't want me then, you can't have me now. You want my help? Phoenix. Robert's voice was suddenly full of hope. Anything. I'll do anything. Go kneel on the sidewalk in front of my office building. Kneel until I'm satisfied. Then, maybe I'll consider it. I hung up before he could respond. Help him? In his dreams. I was going to make him feel the raw, gnawing despair of having nowhere left to turn. Chapter 12, I didn't think he'd actually do it. I thought he still had some shred of dignity left. I was wrong. The next morning, Robert Vance was kneeling on the pavement in front of my building. He was wearing a cheap, ill-fitting suit. His hair had gone completely gray, and he looked like he'd aged 10 years. He knelt there, in front of the bustling entrance, holding a cardboard sign that read, M.R. Cole, please forgive me. The scene immediately attracted a crowd. Phones came out, pictures were taken. Within an hour, #billionaire's father-in-law begs was trending on Twitter. I watched the whole circus on the security feed from my office, my expression unchanged. Jenna came in, looking deeply uncomfortable. Mr. Cole, downstairs. Should I have security? No, I cut her off. Let him kneel. He loves a good performance. Let him put on a show for the whole city. I wanted everyone to see the once arrogant Robert Vance reduced to this. I wanted Chloe to see the family. She was so proud of being publicly humiliated and trampled under my feet. Robert knelt from morning until late afternoon. At some point, Chloe showed up. She saw her father on the ground, the target of whispers and stares, and rushed over, trying frantically to pull him up. Dad, get up. What are you doing kneeling for him? Get away from me. Robert shoved her away, his face contorted with rage as he pointed a trembling finger at her. If it wasn't for you, you worthless tramp, would I be here humiliating myself like this? This is all your fault. The two of them started screaming and fighting right there on the sidewalk. It was more dramatic than a daytime soap opera. I turned off the monitor, suddenly bored. This was the family I once tried so desperately to be a part of. Pathetic. That evening, I left the office in my new limited edition Porsche with Ava in the passenger seat. As we exited the parking garage, I deliberately slowed down as we passed the main entrance. Chloe, who was trying to support the nearly collapsed Robert, saw us immediately. Her eyes locked on me in the driver's seat, then shifted to Ava, radiant and impeccably dressed beside me. Her face turned crimson. Jealousy, hatred, regret. A storm of emotions twisted her features into an ugly mask. Ava noticed her stare. She turned her head, looked directly at Chloe, and smiled the cool, confident smile of a winner. Then, right in front of Chloe, she leaned over and kissed my cheek. It was a bold, deliberate act of provocation. I could see Chloe physically flinch, her body swaying as if she might faint. I rolled down my window, the cool air from the car meeting the humid city heat. I looked at the pathetic, broken woman on the sidewalk as if she were a complete stranger. Regret it yet? I asked softly. Tears instantly flooded her eyes. I didn't wait for an answer. I hit the gas, and the Porsche's engine roared to life, leaving the two of them in a cloud of exhaust. Chapter 13. After that day, Robert Vance's company went into liquidation. Buried under a mountain of debt, he lost everything. The house, the cars, all seized by the banks. Overnight, he went from a comfortable executive to a homeless man on the street. As for Chloe, with no money and a lifelong aversion to actual work, she had no choice but to live on the streets with her father, scrounging for their next meal. I heard through the grapevine that she started working at some seedy nightclubs to make ends meet. The once proud, untouchable Chloe Vance had finally been forced to sell the only thing she had left, her ridiculous pride. When I heard the news, I just smiled. Their fates were sealed the moment they decided to cross me. Meanwhile, Ava and I were planning our wedding. She didn't want a huge, lavish ceremony, the kind that was more of a business merger than a marriage. She just wanted us to fly to a quiet island and exchange vows in front of a few close friends. I love the idea. We chose a stunning tropical island and booked an entire resort. The night before the wedding, we lay on the beach, watching the stars blanket the sky. "What are you thinking about?" Ava asked, her head on my shoulder. "I was just thinking, if I hadn't been reborn, where would I be right now?" "You'd be up there, watching over me," Ava said, her voice full of certainty as she squeezed my hand. "And you'd be figuring out a way to get back to me." I laughed. "What makes you so sure?" "Because we're the same," she said, turning to kiss me under the starlight. "We were always meant to find each other." She was right. Perhaps all the suffering in my past life was just a detour on the path that led me to her. Our wedding day was perfect. The sun was shining, and a gentle sea breeze was blowing. I stood under an arch of white flowers, dressed in a linen suit, and watched as Ava walked toward me in a simple, elegant white dress, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Behind her was the endless blue of the ocean. In her eyes, there was only me. In that moment, all the bitterness and rage from my past life finally dissolved, washed away by the tide. My world had found its light. Chapter 14. Married life was blissful. Ava was a woman of infinite surprises. She'd send me wickedly suggestive texts in the middle of a board meeting, making it impossible to concentrate. At home, she'd indulge my fantasies, a playful and passionate partner who was both my lover and my best friend. We fit together perfectly, two halves of a whole, our minds and bodies in complete sync. She healed the broken parts of me and taught me that real love wasn't about one-sided sacrifice. It was about two strong people building something incredible together. A year later, our son was born. We named him Noah. It meant rest and comfort. I wanted his life to be peaceful and happy, free from the darkness and betrayal that had defined my past. Just when I thought the ghosts of my past were gone for good, I saw Chloe again. It was in the underground parking garage of a luxury mall. I was out shopping with Ava. As we walked to our car, a janitor wearing a face mask accidentally tipped over a bucket, splashing dirty water all over my pants. "I'm so sorry. So sorry." The voice was hoarse but familiar. I looked down and recognized her instantly. She was painfully thin, her face worn and aged by hardship, but it was unmistakably Chloe. She recognized me at the same moment. Her body went rigid, and a mop clattered to the concrete floor. Her gaze flickered from my expensive, custom-made suit to the beautiful, glowing woman beside me, and then to the baby Ava was holding. Her eyes became a hollow pit of despair and numbness. The chasm between our lives was absolute. Mr. Cole," she stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Ava glanced at me, then at Chloe, and immediately understood. She said nothing, simply held our son a little closer and stood by my side. I took off my suit jacket and handed it to Ava. Then I pulled a thick wad of cash from my wallet and threw it at Chloe's feet. "For the dry cleaning," I said, my tone the same one you'd use to dismiss a beggar. The cash scattered on the dirty floor. Chloe stared at it, her body shaking violently. It was the ultimate humiliation. She snapped her head up, her red-rimmed eyes locking on mine. "Ethan, do you have to humiliate me like this?" "Humiliate you?" I laughed. "Chloe, have you forgotten? A year ago in this very mall, you used my credit card to buy a $50,000 handbag while I was back at the office, killing myself to close a deal. Did you think you were humiliating me then?" Chloe's face went from white to red and back again. Take the money and get out of my sight." I didn't waste another word on her. I took Ava's arm, and we walked away. Behind us, I could hear her finally break, her sobs echoing in the empty garage. Her tears meant nothing to me anymore. Chapter 15. I thought that would be the end of it. A few days later, I got a call from the NYPD. Chloe had been arrested for aggravated assault. She had stabbed Leo Martinez, the barista who had scammed her. Apparently, She'd been working at a club when she ran into him. He was there with a new sugar mama, flaunting his wealth. Instead of showing any remorse, he had publicly mocked her, calling her his used goods. All the resentment and despair that had been festering inside her finally exploded. She grabbed a knife from the bar and stabbed him 3 times. He was in critical condition at the hospital. Chloe was arrested on the spot. Because I was her ex-husband, the police asked me to come in for a routine statement. I saw her again in an interrogation room. She was wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. Her hair was a matted mess, and her eyes were empty. In just over a year, she looked like a completely different person, a hollow shell of her former self. When she saw me, a flicker of light returned to her dead eyes. "Ethan," she rasped. "I regret it." Tears began to stream down her face. "I really, truly regret it. If I hadn't been so stupid back then, would we still be okay?" "There are no ifs," I said calmly, cutting her off. "You made your choice. The moment you betrayed me, it was over." I looked at her, feeling neither pity nor hatred. "Just nothing. I only came here today to show you one thing." I took out my phone and showed her a picture. It was a photo of Ava holding Noah, both of them laughing in the bright sunshine. "I'm happy," I said. "Happier than I ever was with you." Those words were the final blow. She stared at the photo, her expression vacant. Then she let out a raw, animalistic howl of despair. She lunged forward, trying to grab the phone, but the handcuffs and the steel table held her back. "AR!" She screamed and cried and cursed until she finally collapsed onto the floor in a sobbing heap. I put my phone away and turned to leave without a backward glance. An officer escorted me out. "Thanks for your cooperation," he said. I nodded and walked out of the precinct. The sunlight outside was bright. I looked up at the sky and squinted. It was finally over. All the darkness, all the filth, all the pain of the past was locked away behind that door, forever. Chapter 16. Leo Martinez didn't make it. Chloe was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. I didn't go to the sentencing. Ava told me what happened. She said Robert Vance had a breakdown in the courtroom and collapsed. A broken old man who had lost everything. I just nodded and continued feeding my son his mashed bananas. "What are you thinking about?" Ava asked, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "I was thinking about what we should have for dinner tonight," I said with a smile. Ava laughed and kissed my cheek. "Whatever you want." Years passed. My business empire became a national powerhouse. The name Ethan Cole became a legend in the financial world. But I slowly stepped back from the public eye, choosing to spend more time with my family. I loved watching Ava dissect a complex investment deal with surgical precision, and I loved taking Noah to Central Park to fly a kite. Life was simple, and it was perfect. Every now and then, I'd see a small headline in the business section that brought back the past. Marcus Thorne, former CEO of Thorne Industries, dies in prison. Robert Vance, founder of Bankrupt Vance Construction, found dead of exposure on a park bench. Each name was a ghost from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. Now, they were just names, reminders of the mistakes I would never make again. Today was my wedding anniversary. We didn't do anything extravagant. We just had a quiet, wonderful dinner at home. Later that night, after Noah was asleep, Ava and I were looking through old photos. "Honey," she asked suddenly, "do you ever have any regrets?" "Regrets about what?" "About everything that happened before you met me." I tilted her chin up and kissed her forehead. "No regrets." I looked into her eyes, my voice filled with a sincerity that came from the depths of my soul. "Because every one of those wrong turns led me straight to you. If I hadn't been betrayed, I wouldn't have been reborn. If I hadn't been reborn, I would never have met Ava. So no, I didn't regret it. In a way, I was grateful for it. It destroyed the foolish man I used to be, and it gave me the incredible fortune of finding the true light of my life." Outside, the moon cast a soft glow over the city. I held the love of my life in my arms, a profound peace settling over me. My life, my real life, had only just begun.